Let's have that conversation.
Here? Hi, everybody. I guess you have to talk really loud into the microphone. My name is Candace Hart. Louder, okay. My name is Candace Hart. I am one of the citizens that just concerned about what's happening on the Forest Service lot. So welcome to the Concerned Citizens Public Forum. Thank you for attending. We have held this public forum as this was not afforded to us by the Forest Service. You will have 3 minutes to speak after the presentation. If you want to say something that has already been presented, please keep it brief. There are survey questions. Please fill them out and add anything you like. We need volunteers to continue this effort. Please fill your information out if you can contribute anything or your time. If you want to make a difference, there's a slip that will take you to a GoFundMe website, or please give cash or donations. We appreciate donations for our ongoing expenses. And on the same slip, there is info for our representatives. Please contact them. Our group will take all of tonight's feedback and surveys and have a meeting with Kevin Horner and the other U.S. Forest Service staff with the community's concerned citizens' questions to continue this conversation. This is the public's opportunity to speak about community and development. Let's keep this going. And I'm going to introduce Ross Cribbs, who's going to do the presentation.
Thank you all for being here, showing up. I hope you'll take what you learned here and spread it around, chew on it a little bit, talk to your neighbors, talk to your congressman, and go from there. Real quickly, a little bit about who we are. We're a loose association of concerned citizens. I think we came to this moment with mixed and varied interests. Whether that was the trees, which was an early motivating factor, the history of this parcel that we'll be talking about, and it's got an amazing history, and some of us just from good old-fashioned good urban design, what good towns ought to look like, how they best present themselves to their neighbors and to their citizens. My name is Ross Cribbs. I've lived in the Valley for 22 years, I think, and Carbondale for the last 7. I attended the initial open house of the Forest Service. There was significantly fewer people than are here in this room at that open house in 2020. And I had immediate concerns, and those were concerns that were immediately dismissed. A few kind of ground rules or explanations. What we're not here to do, first, is disrespect the Forest Service. We do respect and honor the energy that they bring to our town, and we acknowledge the work that they work in a building that is in disrepair. They deserve a better working environment. I think we all can agree on that. We all particularly love the boots on the ground folks who staff the front desk and our local trails. I don't know if you've been in to buy a Christmas tree permit, but it's probably the best $10 you'll ever spend. Or apparently lately a mushroom permit as well. The Forest Service does lots of valuable work on a micro and macro level, and we respect that, we appreciate that, and we honor that. We're not here to bash all development. I think as a group, we are in favor of smart, well-reasoned decisions that enhance the character of our town. We probably disagree on a lot of things, but we found a common cause on this issue for sure. Finally, and to be clear, we're not here to ask for a couple of solar panels or a few extra trees on this site. This building is out of character with our downtown and comes at great cost to our cultural fabric. Significant changes need to be made, and that's what we're requesting. Which brings us to why we are here. To express our concerns with the public process, to request that the building construction be delayed while additional public input is considered, to clarify misconceptions and what we feel are misstatements by the Forest Service, and also, most excitingly, to address exciting alternative options that have the possibility of consensus and proud community support. What we ask of you is that there may be some Forest Service and potentially Board of Trustees members in the audience. They've chosen to be here to listen, and we respect and honor that. But they are not in uniform or in their official capacity. So let's respect that choice and let's let them listen. Tomorrow morning, however, we do encourage you to reach out and make contact. Call and email your public officials at all levels. There's a few pieces of paper back there with all of the information in one small quarter sheet. We ask you to make your voice heard. We want you to be proud and involved Carbondale's residents. Some of the folks here have been carrying the torch on this project through some long days and long nights. I personally like to spend September in the woods as much as possible, and the irony of spending it indoors on a Forest Service issue is not lost on me. All that is to say that we would welcome some new faces, some new skills, and some new energy. We know that Carbondale has them in abundance. I want to start and end with a bright vision. And this is the scene a couple days ago in the room right over there for a vibrant charrette to discuss and plan and talk about and share ideas at the very initial stages of Carbondale's town center. I was there, and it was a day to be completely proud of this town, to be proud of our government and some wise choices that they've made, and to share a team-building experience and just a wonderful day around. Volunteers provided their thoughts and input, experts and community members, and experts that are community members, working to enhance our town. This is what planning and government and public projects should look like. Interestingly enough, on the internets, you will find this press release, and it says, "The Forest Service wishes to engage the general public and surrounding neighbors to gain input into creating a facility that better serves as a community asset and provides a positive image of the Forest Service. The design process will include a series of workshops and open houses that will provide the public opportunities to make suggestions and provide input. This initial meeting will present the site assessments, or the site assessment conducted by the design team, and the beginning of the planning and design. Future meetings will be held to describe a conceptual redevelopment plan and architecture." That sounds great, doesn't it? I think we all agree that that is exactly what we'd like to have here. Unfortunately, if you pan out, this is a press release from Aspen in 2011. The project ultimately did not materialize, but this was the plan in Aspen. A decade later, the public engagement with Carbondale citizens included a single open house when drawings were already 60% complete. Architects were not present, and official input was not solicited or recorded. 3 years later, a handful of press releases announced the completion of design and a request for bids. It was a whole different approach here in Carbondale. But when it comes to describing these outreach efforts in a letter to Senator Bennett, recently, I have it here, the Forest Service cited a recent, and I quote, "well-attended Board of Trustees meeting as proof of their outreach. They did not note that the meeting was standing room only, not just well-attended, and that the vast majority of attendees were encouraged to be there and had arrived to specifically oppose the project." And this is what you get when you don't involve the community. A quick note about federal properties. They are, for the most part, not subject to local laws. However, the Forest Service has made multiple statements referring to working closely with the town government, but they refuse to make clear what the recommendations were from our town government, or how many of them they did or did not follow. They did not request a courtesy review by Planning and Zoning, or HPC, as other government projects have in recent years. Quick aside, one of my favorite projects in this town is the teacher housing, the blue roof ones right down here. So full and so lively. That was granted, or they did honor a request or requested themselves, the school district did a review at P&Z. Some good changes were made. We have an amazing, amazing project. Another quick clarification about public input versus local government input. The Forest Service continues to conflate the public with the local government, talking with the town as talking with the government, talking with the town as in talking with the people. We think it's important to keep that clear. The Forest Service Handbook refers to those groups separately, and we think our local officials should too. Talking to the town is not the same as receiving public input. Even without public input, the Forest Service and the mayor of this town have suggested that the project largely meets the zoning required by the historic commercial core, which this project is arguably located in, although not officially located in at the moment. But those claims are simply not accurate. Carbondale HCC, Historic Commercial Core, zoning, requires that buildings, or requires, we can parse some of that if you'd like. In any case, states, requires, implies that buildings should face their primary street, not secondary streets. The proposed Forest Service building faces wind and is also blocked by the Christmas tree. The Forest Service and our mayor have leaned heavily on this notion that the building needs to be brought to the sidewalk. We've heard that on a couple of occasions. There is no zero setback requirement in our documents. There's a zero setback minimum. There's a 7-foot minimum on my property if I want to build next to my neighbor. I'm not required to build up to 7 feet to the lot line. So that's inaccurate. And finally, on a very basic level, our HCC zoning requires that the Historic Preservation Commission consult for demolition of structures that are more than 50 years old. But it really doesn't get any better if we zoom out to some historic commercial core recommendations that are specified in the UDC. A lot of alphabet soup here. The UDC is our Unified Development Code for Carbondale. Here's one that says the development shall respond to specific site conditions and opportunities, and it goes on to include trees and vegetation or other natural features to the maximum extent possible. Roof forms will be highly visible at a distance, and projects shall avoid large, unbroken expanses and long, continuous roof lines. Box-like structures and flat roofs are discouraged. And finally, the purpose of the HCC development standards is to preserve the original commercial center of Carbondale as a unique commercial area with an historic character, following turn-of-the-century design character and patterns of the historic downtown area. I think we can perhaps agree that the turn-of-the-century design character is not evident in the proposal at the moment. So how do we get to this? I will spare you as much bureaucratic minutia as possible. But for a demolition and construction project that would have an impact on our town for generations, perhaps 5-7 minutes is a reasonable investment. Here we go. Like all federal agencies, the U.S. Forest Service is required to follow National Environmental Protection Act rules, that's NEPA, regarding outreach and analysis for all federal projects. It's not just about swamps and ducks and pesticides, but it's about respecting the human environment. That's a phrase that is used frequently in NEPA regulations. It's a remarkable document, actually, and it's why there's been robust public outreach on projects locally, such as the proposed bike path extension up Highway 133. Public comment is gathered, and those concerns must be acknowledged before the project continues. In order to simplify paperwork, there are many federal projects that are, quote unquote, categorically excluded from that analysis. You'll hear the terms CADEX or categorical exclusion. Some of the designated exclusions absolve the U.S. Forest Service of nearly all outreach and paperwork, while others require specific actions and documentations. For the most part, those exclusions make sense and are used in instances when public comment isn't really needed. Lawn mowing, for example. We may get back to that. Categorical exclusions simplify the process, but they can be misused. This is a document dated, I know you can't read it. It's a document dated November 6th of 2019. And this document guided this project for almost 4 years, until just last week. It was changed a day or two before a $6.5 million contract was awarded to a Grand Junction construction firm. An action detailed in the Soper Sun today, and one whose propriety we question seriously. We will focus on, instead, because of that, we will focus on the guiding categorical exclusion that governed the outreach process for the past almost 4 years, not the last 4 days or 2 days. If this makes, let me get to it. There. This is the categorical exclusion. Repair and maintenance of administrative sites. If that makes your jaw drop, you are not alone. I think we can agree that a 7,200 square foot, $6.5 million demolition, design, and dig project isn't repair and isn't maintenance. There's legal precedent that at least one federal judge comes to the same conclusion. Here, to be able to offer a few more specifics, and know you're loving this, the D category shows that this type of project is exempt from significant portions of NEPA rules, as we would expect a repair and maintenance job to be. We don't want extra paperwork just to fix a leaky pipe or patch a wall. A supporting record is not required, as you can see. I'll read that for you, by the way. Categories of actions for which a project or case file and decision memo are not required. A supporting record and a decision memo are not required, but at the discretion of the responsible official may be prepared. I think you know where this goes. In this case, the Forest Service chose to do the absolute minimum, a simple, what they called letter to the file. I'm not 100% sure what that means, but we can ask at some point in the future. And if we are unclear exactly what type of projects are intended to be covered by this particular CADEX, we are given examples in the code. Those examples are mowing lawns at a district office, replacing a roof or storage shed, painting a building, applying registered pesticides, or rodent control. I'm gonna let that sink in for just a minute. You've got to do some very outside-of-the-box rationalization to put a $6.5 million demolition project inside a repair and maintenance box. Small side note, for 3 years there was another CADEX available that would have required additional outreach, but the Forest Service stuck with this one. No project website, no case file, no decision memo. I will grant that some of these items suddenly appeared last week while the ink was still wet on the construction contract, but this is not how the NEPA process works. NEPA regulations aren't designed for cursory approval of a finished project, but to guide public documentation and serious analysis from the very start. We are not asking the Forest Service to follow our rules. They don't have to. We're asking them to follow their own, and they have not. That brings us to the situation at hand, and a chance to look again at what's been proposed by the Forest Service. The trees receive the lion's share of the early attention from the public, and rightly so. We have very few tall, mature evergreens on Main Street, and we will likely be losing many deciduous ones in the near future due to concerns about the elm borer, I think, or some awful bug that sounds like that. Those trees provide character, shade, and balance to our town. Forest Service officials have accurately stated that these are just 2 trees in a forest of 2.3 million acres. We hear that and reply that these are 2 exceptional trees on the main street of a small town with very, very few of them. Context matters. Here's a view of the site, and you can see that those are, there's a little bit of distortion with the wide-angle lens, but I don't think you can find bigger evergreen trees on our main street. Those will be gone. Those will be gone. The 2 biggest ones you see in the foreground. In this building, or in this picture, you do start to get a little picture of actually what is part of an addition to the original buildings. And we're going to move on with a little bit of history. This is the stable building that you may have heard about. It's not in super repair, but pretty much the same shape and size as it was in 1938. And here's a little bit more of sort of this classic look. And I am not a capital H historian, but the buildings on the site are a relatively rare example of a Main Street multi-building compound built by the Civilian Conservation Corps around 1938. part of the New Deal and the WPA programs of the 30s. Most towns would be proud to have a link to that kind of history right in their downtown core, and might even focus efforts on embracing the traces of that history, or even restoring the structures to something approaching their original exterior conditions. In the past 4 years, we could have done that. It is true that these buildings were deemed insignificant by a consulting group hired by the Forest Service in the mid-90s to survey all of Colorado's forest properties. That entire audit is available online, and it makes clear that most Forest Service buildings escaped the historic label. And that's understandable if your goal is to maximize flexibility for your properties. I would expect that a consultant hired under those circumstances would be reluctant to place restrictions on the buildings of their employer. Are these still vital parts of our town and a big part of our history and culture? Heck yes, yes. Our Historic Preservation Commission has said as much, though their strongly worded letter was dismissed at the most recent Board of Trustees meeting. You may find a very similar letter with one author in the Sober Sun today. We reserve the right to embrace the rarest and best parts of our history, even if it's had some additions and modifications. Probably a good metaphor for us all. Okay, so for the next couple minutes, we're just going to take a look at the proposed plan. And as you can see, this is the corner where the historic buildings are presently located. There's Went, I think is it La Raza over there. There's Main Street, Post Office, and Beer Works are right over there. X's mark some trees the trees that will be removed, and you will see that the front of this building faces Went. That is the plan. It turns its back not only on people entering town via 133, but on the pool and on the park. What an amazing opportunity to address high traffic public areas of our town, to address folks who are going to the pool, kids, children, families, to address folks who are at the park, to interact and provide opportunities for any number of interactions. And yet this design, this site plan in particular, turns its back on all of that. Here, just to run down, removes numerous mature trees, demolishes 3 historic Main Street Carbondale buildings, levels the buildings to the sidewalk. There's 4 feet of elevation gain on that site. Places the least interesting facade on Main Street while the front door faces Went, creates a confusing visitor experience. Visitors walk or drive around the entire building, essentially, to get to the front door. It ignores cost-saving opportunities with the concurrent new pool construction, and it sidesteps public documentation, as we have mentioned, by categorizing the entire project as repair and maintenance. Some community members got together, and this is before I kind of rejoined this effort, and this is what sparked my interest. I don't know what the bolt of this inspiration was, but I bet if we had 30 architects in the room like we do for Town Center, that this would have come up as an immediate option. And that is, even to take the exact same building, spin it, put its front facing Main Street, and put it by the pool, saving the whole corner with the historic buildings for future uses, whether that's something the town could make work, whether it's a private partnership, I don't know, an amazing place for either a coffee shop or perhaps our historic preservation, or historic society. How wonderful would it be to have that on our Main Street? A number of these maps are located around here. I encourage you to take a look at them. The enhanced plan builds the exact same building with just a change to the site plan. It saves mature trees. It saves 3 historic Carbondale buildings, one dating to 1938 for potential reuse. And I think actually they all are pretty close to that date. It puts a welcoming front door on Main Street. It improves wheelchair and pedestrian access. It creates opportunities for construction cost sharing with a new public pool next door. And it responds to community concerns that have existed since the building's inception. Forest Service leadership has stressed that it's too late to make changes, that funding will disappear if bulldozers don't hit the ground in January. We've asked for clarification and documentation of those claims, yet no documentation has been provided. And so here we are, threatened with a use it or lose it, take it or leave it narrative that isn't fair and doesn't appear to be accurate. Forest Service leadership has thrown around a lot of big numbers about the cost to make changes, but again, no documentation has been provided. Let's be clear, we are here because the Forest Service leadership made some poor decisions in the first hour and now in the 11th. Still, we are not proposing that this project stops, merely that it changes lanes. There are options that are available that embrace and elevate our town's unique culture and history, instead of, quite literally, demolishing it. We understand that changing plans requires changing timelines, and we are ready to advocate forcefully for the Forest Service efforts to receive and retain their funding in order to do so. The process and the project need not stop. We hope the Forest Service and the Board of Trustees and you concerned citizens here today join us in that effort as we move forward together. Thank you. At this point, we invite folks up to talk if they would like to do that.
So you want to come up once at a time and have 3 minutes. Richard is going to give you a little notice if you're starting to get close to that 3 minutes. Thank you.
My name is Brenda Buchanan, and I live in Carbondale at Crystal Meadows, the affordable senior housing project. And I've been a Carbondale for 53 years, something like that. So I just had one other concern. I was at City Market the morning after that initial meeting, and I saw 2 big rigs just parked in the parking lot of City Market, getting ready to go up 133. And I'm speaking not as a tree hugger or someone who doesn't want these big rigs around or anything like that, but I just took a couple of pictures of these big rigs, and I believe they're good drivers. They came from Pennsylvania and Texas, respectively. And they park like this, trying to stay out of the way, but still took up 5 parking spaces in the City Market parking lot each. And I think it's a disservice to the tourists who are coming to our beautiful place to camp or to hunt or ride bicycles, to have them come into town with these. I mean, these rigs are really long, a 30-foot trailer and a double-up big Ford truck. I did bring pictures. Maybe they're really good drivers, but I don't know. That Main Street that's going to be hard to negotiate at a lot of times of years. We have festivals, we have kids, we have bicycles, we have little old lady drivers. We got the post office. That in itself is really short-sighted in my view. Okay, thanks. Well, I would like to see. Microphone. Closer. Oh, I would like to see some wild and creative exchange for that old City Market parking lot, where those folks can just drive in and get gas and food and what they need from the Forest Service and be on their way and beautify that ugliness, because they can plant trees and it could be a beautiful thing. I know the Waltons own it, and I know it wouldn't be easy, but I bet we have people that can figure out how to do a thing like that. I don't know, I just think it would be a much longer view of things. Thank y'all. Anybody want to say something?
Yeah, going to be brief. My name is Bridget, and I've lived in the valley for 10 years. And part of the charm of this place is that it's a small town, and I would like to keep that feel. And I think it's really ironic that the Forest Service wants to cut down, I don't care how many trees. They want to cut down trees, and the last time that I checked, the federal government is funded by all of us. So we should be telling you what to do.
My name's Matt Rakowski. I live at 453 Lions Ridge Road in Carbondale.
Can you start over? Can you start over?
Oh, of course. My name is Matt Rakowski. I live at 453 Lions Ridge Road. I've only been in Carbondale for a couple of years, but I work at Aspen Tree Service, which is now Aspen Save a Tree. So I cut down trees for a living. I cut down trees all day. And actually, my least favorite part of the job is something similar to this project, where I have to cut down trees that are perfectly healthy and they provide a function for society. So it's actually really depressing to hear that it still continues to happen. And yeah, I looked at the trees right before this meeting, and they seem very healthy. I don't see any structural defects. They've been treated and pruned before, it looks like. So I just don't see any inherent problems with these trees. And another piece going along with your irony. Actually, in 2018, the Forest Service did this study, along with other universities in the US. They did a study of urban trees, and they found the majority of US municipalities and cities found a decrease in trees from 2009 to 2014. And they hinted at it, they don't know for sure, but they're suggesting that a lot of this is because of more urban development, which is funny because the Forest Service did this study. They're saying there's a need for maintaining urban trees because there's a national decline, yet they still approve projects like this. So for me, that's just the definition of irony. And along with that, with the human environment and public safety, trees are along the road, and there's science that has shown, or the scientific studies that have shown, that trees are more likely to decrease traffic speeds, especially in a high pedestrian area. So there is a safety concern with maintaining the trees as well. And with other alternative building plans, I think it's reasonable that they can find an alternative that keeps the trees. That's all I have.
Hi, my name is Grace Trevor, and I've lived in Carbondale for 45 years. And I have a couple of concerns. I know that the Forest Service really wants to be in Carbondale. And Carbondale is a very neighborly town. And I feel that not taking your neighbors' concerns into consideration isn't very neighborly. And I know there's a lot of support from the mayor, but he may not be the mayor for very long because he's upsetting a lot of people. The other thing I'd like to mention is that the Forest Service keeps saying it's going to cost a couple $100,000 to change their plan to our enhanced plan, and they will save a tremendous amount of money not taking out and putting in new concrete all over the front. They'll have to take out the sidewalks and then put them in and put their plan to put in huge driveways. So that costs multiple hundreds of thousands of dollars. And my husband also works for Save a Tree, and I know that it's very expensive to remove trees. So it's going to cost at least $100,000 to remove those trees. You could probably correct me.
I don't know about $100,000, but multi-$1,000, yes. They are very big.
Yeah. Yeah, because we had a tree, yeah, I won't go into that, but anyway. So, yeah, I just think that they will save a tremendous amount of money changing their plan, and it'll be a wash at least, so.
I don't like public speak, first of all, so my voice is gonna be shaky and I might start crying. But I grew up in Carbondale and went to school in Carbondale. Oh, sorry, Janine Rector. And my class, my senior class, on the first earth, they planted the trees on the east side of Soapers Park. And I love the trees in Carbondale, and I really love the Forest Service in Carbondale. And I like that alternative plan, because it just seems like we can save the trees. And I was just on a trip with a really good friend of mine who's here tonight, and we stopped in a little town by the name of DeSmith, South Dakota. And that's where Laura Ingalls Wilder was from and wrote a lot of wonderful stories. And in that town, I encourage you all to go there. It's adorable, and there's all these really cool, neat old buildings that she lived at. And there's a little log school, and there's another school. It's near a park, and to be able to save those buildings and also do this alternative plan is what we need to do.
Hi, my name is Matt Reeves. I've lived here since 2001. I live on County Road in Tank. My concern is with climate change, and I call it actually climate catastrophe, because I think climate change is really non-descriptive, that we should not be obviously taking down any carbon sequester of trees. And also with the loss of trees, also the temperature will rise as well because of the concrete and the loss of those trees. And another point I want to make is if we can collaborate on these these projects in our own town, how are we ever going to be able to address the bigger problems that come with increasing loss of our climate and the problems that it causes around the world? I just think we really need to work with each other, and the enhanced plan really seems like it serves a lot of win-win situations for everybody. And I definitely am saddened by the fact that we have not had more of a collaborative effort in this whole process. And I think it's really important that we learn to do this now, build a relationship with each other, because things are not going to get any easier with the coming climate catastrophes.
in the valley since 1984, and I'm harebrained idea that our population is growing so tremendously that I think that moving the Forest Service to a place where people can get to it more easily. I've spoken to commissioners who have endorsed the idea that the Forest Service have its property located where it can be easily found by anyone nationally or internationally, which is less likely on Main Street because it's sort of something to navigate in order to find one's way onto the property. And it also means that we can't have a dump site at the location, which a lot of people who have large RVs wish to have. And so with all of that said, and knowing that the population is growing in Carbondale, I have a harebrained idea of going Central Park in Carbondale means that we would ask to find a way to take the whole property and then help the Forest Service to have, they have locations, they have 11 acres on Catherine Store Road. They also have, there's sites on 133 that could be pretty easily be gotten by the Forest Service, as well as I probably would say the eligible location. But nonetheless, if by chance we were able to accomplish that, that would mean that we could have the 3 historic buildings remain on site and then have them be rentals. And we realized one of the protests amongst the town is that it would be costly to maintain those buildings, but if it were part of the regulation, for renting, was that the renter was completely responsible for insurance and maintenance of those facilities. that we would actually be just profiting as a town, and we would be able to keep those buildings, and for so many reasons. And I love the enhanced plan. And but so there's nothing wrong there, but you just kind of go, let's just jump a little further, because we do realize that we are outgrowing the Soapers Park based on the idea that our population is so tremendous, and that we love that park so much. We have Taylor Day coming, on and on and on. And so there's the 2 cents from, just from out in the wing. I hope somebody else speaks in. And also I'm praying that we figure out how do we remain sort of like pushing for the outcome that we're looking for, because we know that bureaucracy says, hey, you've already made the decision, walk away from it because you can't do anything. But we know, we hear over and over and over that the persistence of the population is what matters, and that's what democracy is. And so I implore all of us to kind of stay on it, because it matters, and we know that there are just a few trees, but there are a few trees and they matter, and obviously we wouldn't be here otherwise. Thanks for listening, and I hope somebody else gets up so we can endorse one another.
My name is Cody Lee, and I'm a little bit confused that I believe that the mayor of Carbondale and most of its town trustees seem to want to make Carbondale look more like Willits and be very pro-development and more concrete and construction, consumerism, and I don't think that's a good fit for any life on Earth, and especially for this community. I actually don't really like the Forest Service, their plan, and even the revised plan. I think that they've proven to be irresponsible in their planning process, and that they should probably go to another community that accepts their plan. And I was just reading in the Aspen News a few days ago that seemed kind of pro for this project, that acted like it was just going to roll out no matter what, that they were granted $4.3 million, and that seems like a lot of money, and that they need to act on it, to act on that grant. And I just looked it up, that just to put it into perspective, that if you multiplied $4.3 million times more than 417,000, that's the amount the federal government has given to Ukraine in the last couple of years. And that's kind of staggering, and I think that if they need to move somewhere else, the federal government can support them. But I don't support them being in government. Thank you.
My name is Robert Condon. I'm rather new to this. Got here in 1978. I was a coal miner. There was no other jobs then but coal mining, ranching, and logging. There was no tourism at all, none. Nobody wanted to come here. My biggest concern today is, I'm new to this. I haven't studied what's going on. But out of control growth that's taking place, not just in Carbondale, the whole valley. I moved to New Mexico because I can't stand it here anymore. I've got grandchildren here and kids here, so I come and visit. It's not the Carbondale, the historic Carbondale that y'all talking about. It never will be again. It's been discovered. So I don't really know what you can do about it. I think there are bigger problems than where the Forest Service puts their buildings. And it sounds like it's okay, they don't like the building if it's here, but you like it if it's here. You know, I'd like to know how much foot traffic goes on here. Through there. I've been going in there since 1982. There's not that many people that come and go. This gentleman back here told me, I'd like to know if it's true or not, that all the RV permits for the whole entire state of Colorado are going to take place in this building over here. Can anyone confirm that? See, you may be wrong. Sometimes things get out of control with emotions and you know how I tell this guy one thing, he whispers it to you, by the time it's the end, something totally different. But I encourage you to follow what you're doing, but maybe you ought to add affordable housing onto that. You know what bothers me when the storage shed going in down on 133 and 82? Why isn't that affordable housing? 1 minute. 1 minute? Okay. Good. I mean, there's a lot of big problems here. And I wish you the best, but ain't my problem no more. I still love the creativity and all the artists there. Yeah, I'm gonna visit.
My name is Susan Ray. I live at 901 Wheel Circle. And I agree with this gentleman. If you want to live in a small town, you better go find a place that nobody's heard of. You can't live down valley from Aspen and not expect to see growth. I've seen it over the last 50 years in Colorado. I've been a member of Zero Population Growth for over 50 years. It's like, I listened to a podcast today and it was like, what's the greatest problem we've solved? We can take it off our to-do list. And it's infant death mortality. But alongside of that, we haven't attached reduced population fertility in the first place. So we continue to grow, we continue to grow. It's just gonna happen. I've come from places that were smaller towns than this, that were bigger towns than this, that have grown ridiculously crazy, and they're hard to go back to. And I'm here, and as much as I wanna maintain that small town character, I know it's not possible. I know that the Forest Service really has, this Forest Service really has worked with the town representatives who you all voted for, many of you, to represent us, because we have a representative government. We don't have democracy, we don't have a government by accolade. I'm so glad that we have a public library board of trustees that is not responding to a citizen's petition to restrict consumers to what they can read in the library. Next week there's a meeting in Rifle if you'd really like to go represent free speech in this county, in this area. So I support the Forest Service in building a new building for their employees. I toured that building. None of you would want to work there. It is amazing that it has lasted as long as it has. We are now faced with a government that is completely dysfunctional. We have a Congress that is out of session. If this project does not get started, it could be derailed forever. And I'm not willing to be a part of a community that tells these employees, you have to continue to work in this janky building any longer. I don't like the alternative plan. I think it puts it too close to the pool. The pool is a very exciting development for this community. To have the side of the pool property be backed up against this big concrete wall is also not a good plan. I think if you look at the big picture, what they're doing there is a good thing. There are some changes I would like to see. I'm glad they're trying to keep the Christmas tree. And we have to let them go forward with this project.
Anybody else?
We may be reaching the end of our microphones.
Yeah. Like your sign.
Hi, I'm Jim Cottington, and I've lived in the Roaring Fork Valley for about 18 years altogether. And thank you, Ross, for such a great presentation. I want to thank you for showing up. I'm going to get into zero. I was at a trustee meeting, my first one in August. We had nearly 100 people. They may not sound like much. That was the biggest turnout we had in 2 years, from what I've heard from the town clerk. So this is a ripple effect. This is huge what happened. Because at this meeting, the local district ranger, Kurt Warner, stated publicly, we have to go through with this because we will lose 100% of our money. 100% we have to move forward. This is what can happen when we work together. I'm involved with a small group. We had a meeting with Senator Bennett's representative last week. Both senators have received a formal response, a reply from the Forest Service to address our concerns. And when that letter gets public, you can see where they are and just this double talk. But because of a small group of people like you showing up, we have strength in numbers. Because in today's Social Sun, and this is the Scott Fitzsimmons, the White River National Forest Supervisor. He stated in the Soper Sun that the Great American Outdoors funding, which has been portrayed as time sensitive, is limited by how much was appropriated for this project and rising construction costs. In other words, the money won't disappear. In other words, the money won't disappear if the project is changed, but increased costs could create need for additional money. That's huge. He's already saying we can do this. Get their read through this. And that's why I see the strength in collaborative efforts. We've had some differences of opinion here. The beauty is if they would place a pause on this, the U.S. Forest Service, we could have community collaborative efforts where we listen to each other's concerns, including the concerns of the Forest Service. The Forest Service, they're concerned about when they lose this building, where are we going to house their employees? Where can we house them now? Where can they house the offices? You know what we can do as a community? Look, when you're revamping your building, we can have collaborative effort, and perhaps as a community, we can find places for their staff to work and we can still give them services that you want as a forestry service. So I'm a firm believer in the differences. We have a common vision and we can come together, and we're talking about employee housing. That could be part of the collaborative effort. How can we have this happen? But I just want to say this, the ripple effect, strength in numbers, and thank you so much for showing up. Please do contact our congressional representatives. We do have a form back here about who to contact in the survey, and thank you so much for showing up.
Well said.
That's it. If that's it, I just want to finish. Oops, just one more. Please.
I think the batteries are dead. Anyway, I'm Lisa Dancing Light. I've lived in the valley for 53 years, and I am part of this effort to create a better plan because, and I'm not somebody who ever speaks out quite like this. I'm mostly a singer-songwriter, musician. I do it through music and concerts, and I'm also an educator, so I do it for educating children about the value of caring for our environment. Thank you, Colin.
That's awesome. Thank you. So, this is unique. First of all, I want to thank you all for coming. This is, with all the important things that are happening in the world, in your lives, in our community, this is symbolic, if nothing else, of the interest that we need to have with what's going on in our community. It impacts each of our lives. It will impact our families. It will impact my grandson as he grows up here. It's definitely impacted both of my sons as I raise them. I'm attached. I am a tree hugger. I am attached to the tree issue. That was how I got in initially because I love trees. I'm a master gardener, and I've been gardening in this valley from Aspen to Glenwood and to Carbondale. And I appreciate the work that it takes for a tree to grow. And Scott Fitzwilliams shared with me that it's not really a problem that they're going to take those trees down because they're going to plant 5 more and trees grow. And I said, yeah, but I won't see them reach the height that they're at in my lifetime. And that was significant to me. He also shared some other statements, which I won't bring up here, but it made me concerned about how we address the environmental problems in our community that's growing. Thank you. we have the temperature in Carbondale seems like, I don't know, I've lived here a long time, it's getting hot and the heat is harder for me to handle. The trees are definitely creating a home for birds. They're carbon capture, they create a cooler environment. They're beautiful, they're gorgeous, and they provide a soft impact. I like the enhanced plan. I'm not an architect, but I would love to see a collaboration within our community, and I do appreciate the people that are the voices for our community as the town trustees and the mayor. It's not an easy job, and we were told to apply if we were interested. So I want to tell all of you, if you're interested in having more of a voice, just continue to speak out, stay active, show up. We have a donation basket to help us defray costs for printing and advertising. If you'd like to put a few bucks in that basket, we would appreciate it. And fill out the survey and give us your name and address if you want to be on our contact list for future events. But I thank you all for coming, and I thank the media for the positive support in reporting accurately what is going on here. The Aspen Times, the Daily News, and the Silver Sun locally. Thank you so much.
Thank you again for coming. We'll probably leave it about at that. It's been a great opportunity to listen to the community. We don't all agree on everything, but we do agree that we should listen to each other. And we hope that message gets sent to our government representatives and our public servants. Thank you for being here. Have a great, wonderful, lovely weekend. I urge you to walk the corner of the Forest Service property in the afternoon light. And if you think that's worth saving, tell a friend. Thank you.